If you think back to the 1990s, walking into a Blockbuster video store on a Friday night it was an experience defined by one thing.
Absolute, unquestionable power.
Yes, exactly. Absolute power. I mean, they had the movies and you wanted the movies, so you had to drive all the way to them, walk their aisles, and just, cross your fingers that the new release wasn't completely sold out.
Right, because they held all the cards. It's the classic textbook model of information and, well, resource asymmetry.
Right.
The vendor controlled the access, so they basically got to dictate the terms of the entire relationship.
Exactly. But then streaming happened.
Yeah, that changed everything.
It really did. Suddenly you had practically every movie ever made just sitting right there in your living room. The power completely flipped from the store directly to the consumer.
Yeah.
And almost overnight, Blockbuster went from being this massive tie-in to like a nostalgic relic.
A total relic, yeah.
And today, we're going to explore how that exact same power flip has completely upended the modern business world. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Our mission today is unpacking a massive shift in how complex business deals actually get done. And we're drawing on some really fascinating insights from George Radu's Future-Proof Sales ebook.
It's a great scores text.
It really is. Specifically, we're looking at why the legendary old-school lone wolf salesperson is officially extinct and, what's taking their place, the ecosystem collaborator.
It really is a profound transition. I mean, if you're listening to this right now, whether you're a sales manager pulling your hair out, trying to modernize a team that's just stuck in the past.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Or maybe you're a rep feeling the sheer friction of tactics that just don't work anymore. Or simply someone who's insanely curious about how massive, high-stakes decisions are made in the AI era. This matters to you.
Absolutely. Because the underlying rules of influence have fundamentally changed.
They really have.
We've got a lot of ground to cover today.
Sure.
We're going to start by looking at the death of that lone wolf, move into this crazy new reality of AI-integrated ecosystems, and then offer some really strategic advice for the managers who are trying to steer this ship.
And we'll also lay out a practical way to pivot your own approach, from being a solo hero to an ecosystem orchestrator.
Perfect. Okay, let's unpack this. To understand where we're going, we really have to look at what we're leaving behind.
We have to look at the old reality.
Yes, the old reality. Picture the classic lone wolf. I mean, we all know the type.
Oh, definitely.
This was the hero culture rep. They hoarded their accounts like dragons guarding gold. They relied on a fat Rolodex of personal contacts, and they viewed literally every negotiation as a win-or-lose, zero-sum battle.
Totally.
They leaned heavily on those classic pressure tactics, the ones, the Friday-only discounts.
Right, or that theatrical sigh where they say, well, let me go see if my manager will approve this price.
Yes. Oh, the theater of tactics. It was a complete performance.
It was. And just like your Blockbuster analogy, it worked purely because of that information asymmetry. The seller controlled the knowledge. I mean, they knew the product roadmap, they knew the real pricing floors, and they know exactly what their competitors are charging.
Which the buyer didn't know at all.
Exactly. If a CFO in the late 90s wanted to know what enterprise accounting software was available, they couldn't just Google a comparison chart.
Right.
Or, ask an AI to summarize the market landscape for them.
Yeah.
They had to pick up the phone and talk to a salesperson.
They were the ultimate gatekeepers. But hold on, I mean, didn't that approach actually work? Entire industries were built on the backs of these aggressive solo reps who just willed deals across the finish line?
Oh, absolutely it worked. It worked phenomenally well until the gate was blown wide open.
Right.
Today, the data shows that buyers complete anywhere from 57 to 70% of their research before they even engage with the vendor.
Wait, 70%? Before even talking to anyone?
Yeah, up to 70%. They've read the peer reviews on hidden subreddits. They've benchmarked the pricing. Through third-party consultants, they've already mapped out your competitors' weaknesses.
Wow.
By the time they actually talk to you, the Blockbuster model is already dead. The buyer holds the cards now.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it isn't just the sheer abundance of information that killed the lone wolf, is it? It's the sheer complexity of what's actually being sold today.
That's exactly right.
Because buyers don't really buy standalone plug-and-play products anymore. They buy incredibly complex, integrated systems that touch every single part of their business.
And because the solutions are so complex, the buying committee has massively expanded. You aren't just taking one friendly executive out for a steak dinner anymore.
Not at all.
The sources highlight that a modern enterprise buying committee involves 6 to 10 distinct stakeholders.
Up to 10 people.
Yeah, and they all have completely competing agendas. You've got IT worrying about data security and server loads.
Finance strictly scrutinizing the ROI and payment terms.
Right. And legal tearing apart the indemnification clauses to look at risk, and HR worrying about whether the employees will actually, use the thing.
And a single lone wolf simply cannot navigate that tangled web alone.
Impossible.
The sources give a really great, highly relatable example of a massive deal that just died in committee. There was this European software vendor pitching a major bank. The chief information officer absolutely loved the software.
HR loved it too, right? Because it was user-friendly.
Exactly. But finance suddenly balked at the recurring subscription model, and then legal flagged a minor compliance risk with where the data was hosted.
Right. And what did the lone wolf do? They tried to force it.
They always do.
They tried to use their relationship with the CIO to just bulldoze finance and legal. But weeks turned into months of internal debate. The momentum flatlined, and the deal just quietly died.
And the crazy part, no competitor swooped in and won it.
No. The buyer's own internal gridlock killed it. A lone wolf cannot force alignment across a modern enterprise.
Because they're basically a solo street performer. If they play their guitar well, they hope people throw money in the case. But they can't play the drums, the bass, and the horn section all at once.
That's a great way to put it.
And beyond just losing deals, the text points out that these lone wolves actually create massive fragility for their own companies, right?
They absolutely do. Think about it mechanically. If a lone wolf leaves your company, and they've spent years hoarding all the relationships and keeping the rest of your team in the dark.
Those relationships walk right out the door with them.
Exactly. The institutional memory is wiped completely clean. Furthermore, their fierce resistance to collaboration, their obsession with controlling the account entirely, it actually alienates modern buyers.
Really? Buyers hate that now.
Yeah, today's buyer is looking for a collaborative, transparent partner who can help them solve a messy problem, not a dictator who just wants a signature.
Which brings us to the core of the issue. If you strip away the lone wolf's control, how do you keep a complex deal from turning into just a chaotic, messy disaster?
It's a fair question.
Since the solo act is extinct, what actually replaces it? The text points directly to ecosystem sales, powered by AI.
Yes. Ecosystem sales completely redefines the battlefield. The competition is no longer simply company X's product versus company Y's product.
Right.
That view is way too narrow now. The competition is now ecosystem A versus ecosystem B.
Okay, let me push back on this because I want to make sure I'm understanding the mechanics here.
Sure.
If a modern deal involves you, plus vendors who maybe used to be your competitors but are now your allies, plus partners like external consultants, plus systems integrators, plus the client's own massive internal teams.
It sounds like a lot.
Doesn't bringing in all those outside voices just make the deal incredibly slow? Usually, adding a third party to any negotiation just adds like 3 weeks of legal review.
It's a completely logical assumption to make. It sounds like a too many cooks in the kitchen nightmare.
Exactly.
But the data in the source text shows the exact opposite. Ecosystem selling actually accelerates deals and drastically reduces the perceived risk for the buyer.
Hold on. How does adding more people accelerate a complex deal?
Because modern buyers are absolutely terrified of making a bad, highly visible, career-damaging decision.
Oh, that makes sense. Nobody wants to be the one who bought the broken software.
Exactly. When you orchestrate an ecosystem, you provide stability. The sources note a specific case study where a software company intentionally introduced a trusted systems integrator extremely early in their sales cycle.
Okay, for anyone listening who might not live and breathe tech jargon, let's define that. What exactly is the systems integrator doing in this context?
Think of a systems integrator like the general contractor when you're building a custom house.
Okay.
You, the vendor, are selling the buyer a bunch of beautiful, highly expensive Italian marble. But the buyer is secretly terrified because their existing house has terrible plumbing and uneven floors.
Right, and they have no idea how to actually install the marble.
Exactly. The systems integrator is the outside team whose entire job is to plug your shiny new marble into their messy reality. They step in and say, don't worry, we've installed this exact marble 100 times. Here is the exact blueprint.
Oh, wow. So instead of crowding the deal, buyer confidence soars because the integrator proves how the solution will actually work in the real world. The risk vanishes.
Precisely. And as a direct result, Those deals actually closed 25% faster.
25% faster just by bringing in the general contractor early. That is fascinating.
It's a huge shift.
And here is where AI enters the chat and changes the game entirely. In the old days, relationship selling meant taking people to expensive steakhouses, desperately trying to remember their kids' names, and, manually tracking every single email touchpoint in a clunky CRM spreadsheet.
A total nightmare to manage at scale.
Today, AI is stepping in as what the author calls the silent closer.
That's a fantastic term for it, because managing an ecosystem with 10 different stakeholders across 4 different time zones, it's impossible for a human brain to track manually.
Right. AI operates in the background, sequencing follow-ups across multiple channels. But more importantly, it's using things like intent data to predict buyer behavior.
Let's break down intent data, because it sounds a bit like corporate espionage. How does it actually work mechanically?
Intent data is basically reading the digital body language of an entire company in real time.
Digital body language, I like that.
Yeah, it's not just knowing that one guy opened your email. It's the AI flagging that 3 people from the buyer's finance team just spent 20 minutes scrutinizing your competitor's pricing page.
Wow.
While simultaneously, their IT director was reading your technical API documentation. The AI synthesizes all that noise, benchmarks your pricing in real time to ensure the buyer feels they're getting a fair deal, and tells the human salesperson exactly where the hidden friction is.
So the AI is sending the nudges, tracking the contract views, surfacing the hidden objections. It's handling the sheer scale of the noise. What's fascinating here is how this completely redefines the human's job.
Yeah.
Because the AI handles the scale and the repetition scoring the leads, drafting the framework of the emails, automatically reminding a legal stakeholder that a signature is needed. It frees the human up to do the deep, irreplaceable work.
Which is orchestrating trust across that massive ecosystem. If the lone wolf was a solo street performer, the ecosystem collaborator is the conductor of an orchestra.
That is the perfect analogy. The conductor doesn't actually make a sound. Their entire job is to look at the sheet music, set the tempo, and make sure the brass section, maybe the legal team, doesn't completely drown out the strings, which is the software vendor.
That makes total sense.
AI cannot mediate a nuanced political conflict between a client's IT department and their finance team. AI cannot sit in a room, sense the hesitation in a CFO's voice, and genuinely empathize with their fear of making a mistake.
So AI handles the mechanics of the deal, and humans handle the meaning.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the people actually running these teams? Because understanding this ecosystem shift on a theoretical level is one thing. But how does a sales manager actually lead a team of stubborn, veteran lone wolves into this new collaborative reality?
It's tough.
You're asking people to unlearn decades of conditioning.
It's arguably the hardest part of the entire transition. It requires a fundamental ground-up cultural change. Because, as you noted earlier, reps fiercely resist sharing their accounts.
They really do.
They are terrified of losing control, and let's be honest, they're terrified of losing their commission.
Right. If I'm a top-performing rep and you tell me I have to bring in an integration partner and a third-party consultant to help close my deal, my first thought is, wait, does my slice of the commission pie just get sliced into thirds?
Exactly. And if managers ignore that fear, the ecosystem strategy will fail immediately, which is why the author provides very specific, actionable advice for managers. You cannot simply tell your team to collaborate more and then continue to only reward individual solo hero wins in your CRM. You must change the culture by structurally changing the metrics.
So you have to actually rewire the compensation plan. What does that look like mechanically?
You have to explicitly compensate them for bringing partners into the fold. A manager might restructure the CRM so that if a rep brings in a systems integrator early, and that secures the deal, the rep gets a multiplier on their bonus. You reward co-selling. You reward the expansion of the ecosystem. You build shared quotas where the marketing team, the product team, and the sales team all win when a complex ecosystem deal lands.
So it's not just about managing external partners. Managers have to break down the internal silos, too. The text makes it incredibly clear that sales, product, marketing, and delivery teams absolutely must align.
They have to.
Partnerships can't just be this cute peripheral tactic managed by a team of 2 people in the basement. It has to be the core strategy of the entire business.
It's the only way it works at scale. The manager has to transition from being a drill sergeant who just yells about driving more call volume to being a coach of diplomacy.
Coach of diplomacy. I love that.
Yeah.
So they need to stop pulling reps into conference rooms to practice a perfect one-way pitch deck and start teaching them systems thinking.
Yes. Teaching them how to mediate between conflicting agendas. A great ecosystem collaborator can balance the distinct, often competing needs of a software vendor, a cloud provider, an external consultant, and the client's internal committees.
All while ensuring that the client never actually sees the friction.
Right. The manager's job is to teach the rep how to be that flawless conductor.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the actual tactical steps to execute this go against almost every instinct a traditional salesperson has.
Very true.
If you're listening to this right now and you want to make this pivot or you want to train your team to make this pivot, we've extracted a roadmap from the source text. But let's look at it practically. Imagine you're the listener right now, staring at your computer screen. You've got a massive deal stalling. Where do you even begin this ecosystem approach?
The very first thing you have to do is fundamentally shift your mindset. You have to stop looking at the account and asking, how do I win this deal? And start asking, how do we win this together?
That's a huge shift.
It is. If your first instinct is to build a wall around the account so nobody else can touch it, you're operating in the past.
Okay, so the mindset is shifted. Now what? Who are you actually supposed to be talking to? Just the CEO who signs the check?
Not anymore. Now you have to map the board. And that means mapping out everyone. You need a complete, multi-dimensional picture.
What does that picture look like?
Well, who are the external vendors already embedded in the client's tech stack? Who are the integration partners they trust? And crucially, who makes up the client's internal committees across IT, HR, finance, and legal? You have to understand the motivations of every single node in that web.
And that leads right into the next phase, proactive alignment. Because once you've mapped out that massive web of stakeholders, you're going to spot collisions.
Inevitably.
If you know that your software might cause an integration headache for the client's preferred implementation partner, you don't wait for the client to find out. You get on the phone with that partner, mediate the conflict, and solve it behind the scenes.
Exactly.
You build the bridge before the client even knows there's a river. You never let them see the scaffolding.
That's a great way to visualize it. And while you're building those bridges, you have to actively listen across the layers.
Right.
Don't just talk to the C-suite. The executives might be the ones signing the check, but the end users and the compliance teams hold hidden veto power. They can kill the deal if they aren't on board.
Usually compliance is where deals go to die, right?
Traditionally, yes. But there's a brilliant point in the text about treating the compliance team as a partner instead of a roadblock.
How so?
If you bring them in early, acknowledge their concerns, and actively ask for their guidance on how to structure the data rollout, you flip the dynamic. You turn the people who usually say no into your biggest internal champions.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly smart. And that culminates in the final piece of the puzzle, creating mutual wins. For an ecosystem to actually function and not just collapse under its own weight, every single player must get a piece of the pie.
They have to.
The client gets a seamless, de-risked solution. The integration partner gets lucrative implementation revenue. The other vendors get increased usage on their platforms, and you get the sale. If you try to engineer it so you're the only one winning, the entire ecosystem will reject you.
It's a delicate balance, and it raises an incredibly important question about the human element in all of this. This entire approach relies entirely on a concept called influence without authority.
Influence without authority.
Think about it. As the seller, you don't employ the partner's consultants. You don't manage the client's IT team. You can't fire the compliance director.
No, of course not.
Yet, you have to lead them all to a shared conclusion.
You are literally leading a team of highly opinionated people who don't report to you and who might have completely competing incentives.
Exactly. And that requires deep human empathy, extreme creativity, and a bedrock of trust. Those are the three things that right now AI absolutely cannot replicate.
Right.
An algorithm can perfectly map the stakeholders based on LinkedIn data, but it can't sit down over coffee with a deeply skeptical, burnt-out IT director and build the emotional trust required to get them to endorse a massive system overhaul.
So, bringing it all together for you listening, whether you're a manager trying to steer a global sales team through this transition, or you're a rep in the trenches trying to close your own complex deals, holding on to that lone wolf mentality is a fast track to irrelevance.
It really is.
The modern buyer is simply too informed, and the solutions are way too complex for any one person to have all the answers. The future unequivocally belongs to the bridge builders, the people who can seamlessly orchestrate AI tools to handle the noise and logistics while wielding human alliances to build trust.
It is a massive evolution in how business gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd love to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on exactly what we've been discussing.
Let's hear it.
The source text makes it very clear that today AI acts as the silent closer. It handles the scale, the benchmarking, the intent data, while humans handle the empathy and the trust.
Right.
But let's look a few steps ahead. As AI continues to evolve and organizations build vast, fully automated digital ecosystems that seamlessly talk to one another, will there come a day when human buyers actually prefer to negotiate these complex ecosystem deals entirely with AI agents?
Wait, really? You think a buyer would prefer negotiating with an algorithm over a human being?
Think about the concept of self-orientation. It's the idea that deep down, a human seller is almost always looking out for their own commission quota rather than the buyer's absolute best interest.
Right. Buyers can smell quota breath.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But an AI has absolutely zero ego. It has no mortgage to pay. It has no Q3 target to hit. It has zero self-orientation.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
If an AI agent can perfectly benchmark fairness, orchestrate an ecosystem, and optimize a deal without any hidden selfish human agenda, will trust eventually shift from the human's warm empathy to the algorithm's cold, pure objectivity?
That's a wild thought.
Is the ultimate bridge builder of the future a human conductor or just a perfectly tuned algorithm?
Wow. That is a truly wild thought to leave on. Will we eventually trust the machine more simply because it doesn't have an ego? Fascinating.
Something to think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the end of the lone wolf and the rise of the ecosystem collaborator. Take these strategies, rewire your metrics, break down those silos, and start building your bridges in your next big meeting. Until next time.